Cents Per Mile, featuring Charles Gracie and Paul Gibson, with loads of recruiting and marketing experience and backed by the largest driver audience in the world. We deliver carriers the driver perspective, find solutions, and help make sense make sense.
Thank you for tuning in to Cents Per Mile. I'm your host, Charles Gracie.
And I'm your co-host, Paul Gibson. What are we talking about today, Charles?
Shippers, brokers, carriers. Who's taking the biggest hit? Is it everyone? Is it some of them? Some more than others?
Drivers.
Well, of course. That's why they weren't on the list. If we put them in there, we automatically know who's losing.
That's fair. Well, I mean, I guess, you still have it in there with carriers too, with owner operators and whatnot. But yeah, that's, it is a bad time. So it is kind of interesting, to take a break from everybody's having a bad time to maybe let's stir this up. Who's having a little bit of a worse time? Not us, because it's time to do the things that we have to do every week. So wherever you get your podcasts, we are on Apple Music, Amazon Music, Spotify. We are on YouTube. Anywhere you consume your podcasts, you can find us. So if you could go like, subscribe, rate, it helps get us a little bit more momentum so we can do cooler stuff.
I mean, you can also go to centspermilepodcast.com. You can suggest a topic to be a guest or even to become a sponsor.
Sponsor? Speaking of sponsors, who's our sponsor today, Charles?
Starting from loading to unloading and maintaining the highest standards in terms of safety while in transit. They leave nothing to chance. Check out Mesilla Valley Transportation at m-v-t.com.
All right, well, let's roll right into it. It's time for the news.
All right. So our first article off CDLLife.com is 1.4 million worth of Nintendo Switches 2s. They came out with a 2 stolen from a semi somewhere between Seattle and Denver. According to the article, nearly $1.5 million worth of brand new Nintendo Switch 2 consoles were stolen from the back of a semi truck heading to Dallas area. The truck driver discovered that the cargo had been stolen around 8 a.m. on June 8th while conducting a pre-trip. I mean, can we say kudos to this driver? They were doing a pre-trip. They actually got out and walked around the truck. And I mean, come on, celebrate. Yep. According to the local news, the truck driver was heading to the GameStop store in Grapevine, Texas, after picking up the load of 2,810 Nintendo Switch 2 consoles. And they never made it to the final destination because they were jacked.
Yeah. Well, and so you mentioned, the Switch 2 did come out.
I know it came out. They switched. Yeah. You go from a loaded trailer to an empty one.
Well, so it wasn't supposed to come out. When all the tariff stuff first popped up, they were like, "Oh, I don't know when it's going to come out, or if it does come out, it's going to cost like $1,000," which is insane. Because, in my personal opinion, slightly unrelated, it's not that much better than the Switch 1. But anyway,
Like a Game Boy that hooks up to your TV.
Yeah, kind of.
Let's call it what it is.
It's more than that, but and you got to get the newest version of Super Smash Brothers and Zelda, etc.
You want to play a game? Get in the trucking. It's a game. It's got ups and downs. It's got an emotional roller coaster. It's perfect.
Yeah, Mario Kart for those of us with the wrong mid cards. But yeah, so that's crazy. That's a lot of them, especially because if there's scarcity, I mean, that's a good way to build it to get people waiting outside, waiting to get one. But yeah, no, the launch didn't go great to start with. So that's kind of insane to go after that. But either way, so that was the heartfelt one. Heartfelt story.
That's the heartfelt.
Yeah.
Man, what'd you do?
So I did a thing. We were talking about AI last week, and so I decided to ask AI. Google Gemini has their deep research set up, and I put in a prompt. It looked at I think 180 websites and scraped data. It took about 20 minutes. But there's a lot of stuff going on globally. Everything's shifty, and tariffs have almost kind of taken a back seat versus kind of wars and stuff going back and forth, and a lot of rumors and threats about wars and stuff like that. So I decided to ask it because with the tariffs and things we've been talking about a lot is the United States manufacturing and where it's at and how we don't manufacture things here that much compared to how we used to. And that was a big part of, like, let's say there hypothetically was another world war. We manufacture a lot of things here back then. So like manufacturing would flip. And obviously that, the domestic supply chain's got to move all that stuff to different places. Well, we don't have that. So I decided to ask it hypothetically what that would look like for the supply chain market, brokers, carriers, shippers, and truck drivers, theoretically based on current events and other things. And to be clear, this is AI, this is hypothetical, but theoretically with that, what that might look like. Well, so we rely on global trade a lot, and that would pretty much probably collapse. So then you have a lot of your maritime stuff and stuff like that kind of go down, which you would also have, we even saw a little bit with the tariffs or even the pandemic for that. And then you also possibly toss in the idea of cyber attacks, which then puts a further strain on other things. But realistically, shippers would pretty much almost cease to exist because there would be no demand for non-essential goods. And then carriers, transportation assets, would essentially probably end up getting militarized, or there's a lack of freight to move. Truck drivers, some of them might get drafted, but then also like it's going to be a lot harder to maneuver with everything going on, and there's going to be less freight. Same thing with basically like everybody's going to have a bad time because the way we made it through the last one was moving all of our manufactured goods that we shipped over to military goods, but we don't really have the capacity to manufacture like that. So what are we, and then you've got less, we're dependent on global trade now. So like, you're not going to have, so if that happens, it's bad.
Paul, you're going down the rabbit hole.
I did.
I scanned this whole thing, and the one thing that popped was AI spit out digital Pearl Harbor.
Yeah. Well, that's where it gets into like, because if cyber attacks happen, like our supply chain's dependent on that.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, everything's dependent on that. So it all goes down. But then on top of that,
even Truck Parking Club has it where you can open gates now from their app. Right. Someone going for parking and all of a sudden there was a cyber attack and you can't open your gate. Like, what are we going to do? Get out of our truck and open the gate physically? Like, that's ludicrous.
That reminds me of that. I mean, it's unserious, but that reminds me of, I think it was Back to the Future 2 when he goes over to play that arcade game and they're like, you have to use your hands? That's for babies. But yeah, no, I mean, could you imagine being inside the gate and not being able to open it?
Well, can you imagine being the dispatcher getting that call and then like manually going in there and overriding the dash cam so you could validate what the driver's saying? And it's happening out there because I've seen it.
Oh, for sure. And hopefully that stuff's further off, but maybe not actually after talking to James Year, because then you're really going to have like a maximum overdrive type moment. It's going to be a lot more than ATMs. But yeah, that's it. Just basically,
don't let Paul use
hypothetically.
AI. That's what we've learned today.
Right. But it did some pretty deep research. It actually put out about 20 pages. If anybody's interested, you can message me on LinkedIn. I'll get you the whole thing. But it broke it down historically and everything. But the results were basically just like, yeah, it's bad.
That sounds like a great idea.
So
message
all of
Paul
that
for 20 pages of AI written content.
But all of that to say, it makes it not seem so bad with whoever has it worse with what we're talking about today.
Well, so I think it's time to go behind the desk with Tenstreet. Now we're going behind the desk with Tenstreet, and we got Kevin, the director over there. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Charles. I appreciate it. Good to see you again, Paul.
Hey.
You say that, but he just went down an AI rabbit hole. So, like, let's not get him wound up again.
Yeah,
got him wound down.
I was listening. Wow. It may happen. It may not. Let's hope for the latter, right?
Right? Thank you. Positivity. And I'm positive behind the desk is going to be fun with you today. We're talking carriers, shippers, brokers. Who's taking the biggest hit this year? What kind of insights do you guys have with all the data and analytics that you guys come across?
Yeah. Hey, I'm excited to be here. I'm stoked with, Tenstreet is super unique in that we have a lot of insight into driver activity, where drivers are moving to. How's the market responding? Are they staying put at their current employer, or are they checking to see if the grass is greener elsewhere? So it's super interesting to look at that from time to time.
Can you tell where drivers are not?
Can we tell where they are not?
Yeah.
What are you looking for, man?
If we knew where they were not, that would be valuable. If I'm a driver and I'm like, there's not a lot of people moving over this direction, I probably don't want to move in that direction.
Oh, that's interesting. So with the with our Pulse app and the Intella app, we can typically see where drivers are. It's interesting to see where they're kind of fishing to find out more information. A lot of times, drivers are just curious on, hey, I've heard about your company, or I've listened to some marketing material on the radio. Can you really tell me a little bit more about the culture there, or the home time, or the pet policy, and things like that? So we see a lot of interest with drivers just kind of checking the market to learn more. Maybe what are your rates per mile?
Jobs or characteristics in a job that a driver's looking for in today's market? Because it's changed dramatically from where it's been in the past years. I imagine what they're looking for has changed.
Yeah, it does, and I think some of that is the younger generation coming into trucking. However, the unique thing about Pulse is that we allow drivers to identify what's important to them, so they can choose if it's their rate per mile, if it's home time, if it's pet policy, if it's miles, whatever they're looking for. They can rank those in order of importance to it's kind of weed out some of the companies that may not meet their criteria. So we totally let drivers do that for themselves. But I guess to get back to your question, I'm seeing the younger generation who's more interested in technology and culture versus just miles and run. It's an interesting shift in that people are, from what we're seeing, prioritizing more personal life than professional life. Not necessarily a couple pennies more per mile here if the equipment is nicer here or newer, or I can get home every couple of weeks, or I can take my little puppy dog with me or something like that. So it's interesting, man.
No, I think that the reason I said that checks out is because from a recruiter's perspective, that checks out with the conversations we're having, where it used to be whoever had the highest cents per mile won the game with a driver and them shopping around. But right now it's consistency, and not just consistency in the pay, consistency in the home time, consistency in the experience, in the culture. And then further to that, you're starting to see drivers look for the pathways up front that are out of the truck. You got the younger generation that's saying, I'm doing this now, but I don't want to do it forever. And I think the organizations that have an infrastructure to promote outside of the truck, they're really winning.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. In a past life, I was in a driver management role, and quite often we would hear that from recruits, like, "What's the potential for me getting out of the truck?" And we had a really a nice program, a driver supervisor program, where we like to hire internally and pull drivers directly from a truck and bring them into that supervision role, which was really a unique experience and quite a draw for a lot of our drivers. And quite honestly, a lot of our truck drivers had a tremendous amount of experience, whether it be life experience or military experience. A lot of these men and women had been leaders in past lives and were fantastic supervisors, had boots on the ground, could really speak the lingo, had street cred because they had been in the truck. And it was just a fantastic transition path for truck drivers.
No, that's awesome. Is there anything particular that carriers or drivers should be paying attention to right now?
Yeah, I think it's, you alluded to it earlier. It's not always about your rate per mile, rate per hour. It really is about culture. The newer generation wants to feel part of the team. They want to feel respected and appreciated. They want to feel like they have input, like they're being heard. Oftentimes when a driver quits and they list that the pay it's not enough pay, they don't necessarily mean they're not earning enough money. They just mean they're not earning enough money to put up with the bull crap that they're dealing with here. If they jump somewhere for a penny per mile, I mean, let's face it, that might only be $100, maybe $200 at the end of the week. It's not a ton of money, so it's more about culture than anything else. So pay attention to your drivers, spend time with them if you can, listen to their inputs, be straightforward with them, be honest with them. If you're evaluating new technology, be sure to get their input, ask them what they think. Your drivers are your eyes and ears. They're the boots on the ground. So let's bring them into the equation as much as we can.
I would ask a question real quick on that though, just because. So a few years ago, it was definitely a driver's market, and everybody was upping their pay ridiculously. Now it's not. So pay is pretty stationary. There's not really a lot of back and forth. And I mean, a lot of that had to do with the pandemic and stuff. So I guess, to use a term that, got coined a few years ago, the new normal. Do you think the focus on culture, because it is younger people and they do put an emphasis on that, do you think that's the new normal? Or do you think if the market flipped again to where companies were having to like raise their pay, do you think it would go back to the way that it was when it was a driver market? Or do you think that that's part of what's here to stay?
I think it goes back to being the driver market. I mean, at the end of the day, if someone has an opportunity to better themselves or their family with a significantly more amount of money, they're probably going to take that. However, I think you can mitigate those losses if you have a fantastic culture and you are prioritizing your driver, and you have a culture of a family, and it's not just a slogan that's on your website. I mean, you truly work at that from the top down and make everyone feel like they're part of the team.
That's awesome. Well, hey, Kevin Nadeau from Tenstreet, that was Behind the Desk.
Thanks, guys. Glad to be here.
Mesilla Valley Transportation, founded by truck drivers for truck drivers. Why choose MVT? Well, it's simple.
I started off as a driver. Now I'm managing routes. With MVT, the sky's the limit.
Balance is key. State-of-the-art equipment, a strong focus on safety, and a family-driven company culture where respect and hard work are at the core. Mesilla Valley Transportation, where we care about you. Join our family today.
All right. Now it's time to make sense. And yeah, there's a lot to dive in here. And well, we brought in the big guns. We got Kevin Hill. You know him from the Broker Carrier Summit. You know him from a lot of different places, man of many different hats. Welcome to Cents Per Mile.
Thank you very much, Charles, Paul. It's great to be here.
You say that, but when we're trying to dissect this stuff, people have different experiences. I think being on Cents Per Mile is great. Trying to dive into the topic of who's taking the bigger hit. I imagine everyone's thinking it's them. You ask the brokers, they're taking the hit. You ask the carriers, they think they're taking the hit. But there's someone out there that's actually taking the significant hit here.
Well, I mean, the obvious answer is podcasters.
Yes.
We're taking the biggest hit, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. See, you heard it here from Kevin Hill. It must be true. No, I mean, in the content game, this kind of market's, it gives plenty of content.
It does.
Yep.
There's no short supply of it. It's not always great. It's kind of doom and gloom type stuff.
Yeah, it's not really a happy job right now. Obviously I don't do anything to help that.
Yeah, no one's sending us pictures of their puppies in the truck right now. It's like, we're closing the doors. Our boss just laid off this many people. It's just bad news.
3 years now. Over 3 years now.
Yeah.
Over 3 years of just a horrible market. And it just seems like, the wild days of 2020 and 2021 are a distant memory now.
So I have mixed feelings on that. I mean, one of them is to a statement that was mentioned earlier. Is this the new norm? I think it sat high for so long that people assumed that was the new norm. And then when it stayed low for so long, people are hoping it gets back to that high. I don't think we actually get back to that high. I think we find ourselves somewhere in the middle. And I don't think it happens overnight. But I'm looking forward to you coming on right now and telling us it's all going to be great next week.
Oh, of course it is. I mean, if that's what you want to hear, I'll tell you that. It really reminds me of 2019 all over again. The last 6 months, 12 months especially, has been like 2019. It's not a great, it's a pretty good economy, right? The economy is doing pretty well. There's just too much capacity. It's not a balanced market. It's getting more imbalanced now. As time goes on, but there wasn't really, 2019 could have continued well into 2020 if you hadn't had that external shot to the system, which was COVID-19.
Well, let's hope that we don't need another pandemic.
Well,
to
no,
get to some sort of stability? I'd like to
it's
think that's
usually
not the answer.
somewhat bad news a lot of times, right? You have
Like a
COVID, you have
hurricane or
wars or
earthquake, a war.
hurricanes, right? And I remember, 2017 going into 2018, you had the ELD regulation, which was restricting capacity. Then you had the dual hurricanes, right, in Houston and Miami, in the same week or a week apart. That really, and then you had corporate tax cuts added into that. So you had this nice growth in GDP with all of these capacity constraints, and for about 9 months, it was rock and roll. That was a new normal for 9 months. I mean, it's always a new normal. COVID was a new normal. Post COVID, this is a new normal. And at some point, this will change, and that will be the new normal. It's just a roller coaster
So,
ride. It's trucking.
yeah, I was about to say it is full of ups and downs. And if you don't have thick skin and a good psychiatrist or therapist, you're not probably having a great time.
You're exactly right about that. You need a good therapist in this industry. It is real.
Or either that or a really good hug buddy. Like that person that gives really good, healthy hugs.
Dogs are good for that.
I got 3 of them. I didn't want to wear one out, so I got 3 of them.
Anything to not go to therapy, right, Charles?
Yeah, no one wants to hear my feelings or what's going on in my head. That's a scary place. No, but there is, at least in my mind, there has to be someone that's feeling the brunt of this the most. Brokers care. That's kind of what I was thinking, because their margins are already naturally slim. So when you have a market like this, every dollar matters. And unfortunately, we know what happens when things get like this. It generally comes out of the driver's experience.
Exactly right. I mean, the carriers said they have the assets, they have the expenses, they have the debt. So, of course, I mean, they're going to hurt the most, and that's certainly going to filter down to drivers, right? There's no real lucrative markets to chase. It's kind of a steady ho hum, nice and kind of boring right now, just a slow market. And, I don't really see huge changes coming one way or the other.
Well, you don't think that retail surge is going to change the game?
I don't. I think it'll be short term, but I don't think it's good. It's going to change the game, right? I don't see consumer demand matching up to this elongated change in the market, right? If you go back to 2021, late 2020 and 2021, you had the consumer demand. I mean, it was you had to get stuff from overseas onto shelves, and every day that was late, you lost a lot of money because people were just buying physical goods all over the place. But you don't really find that now.
Well, no, I got a buddy who runs a boat and marine shop, and he wound up having to shutter it and go work for somebody. And now when you talk to him, like, how's business? He's like, just stop asking. He's like, it's not changing. He's like, no one's buying boats unless I have a $5,000 boat for sale. He's like, no one's actually making big purchases. And when I look at my personal spending, I'm not making big purchases. I might not be slowing down on like, hey, we're going to go out to eat, or we're going to go out and have an experience. But as far as like going out and buying big things, it's necessities.
It is.
I mean,
it's
heck,
necessity.
I just put my kid I bought a lawnmower so my kid can mow it, so I'm not paying someone else to do it.
Yeah. I've been saying that I'm going to go buy a new car for a year now, and I still haven't done it. And it'll be another year and another probably thousands of dollars in repairs in this car that I'm driving now. But
I haven't looked at the market recently, but are used cars still more expensive than new cars?
I think they've come down, right? I mean, that was a crazy time too, right?
That was probably a good year and a half there.
Yeah. That was great for me though, because I sold my used truck with like 70,000 miles and basically paid cash for the difference of buying a brand new one.
That's what's crazy.
It was ludicrous.
That was so crazy that like people like didn't notice that. That was insane. Like they were like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna buy this used one because it's more expensive." That's insane.
Well, on FreightWaves, we used to look at that. We pull it up in Sonar and do the Class 8 orders, right? Class 8 orders and used truck pricing. You couldn't get a new truck during 2021, but you're buying, 5-year-old trucks for $150,000, right? And that's how crazy the market was. And
look where we're at now.
civilian car market was the same. Just all the markets were completely crazy during that point.
Oh, and it's crazy now because people are living with those decisions they made. If you went out there and you bought a used truck for way more than what it's worth, that payment didn't change because the market went down, and you're starting to see those carriers suffer those financial losses because their debt to income ratio has changed.
It has shot up. And when we're talking about who's hurting the most, are those drivers and fleet owners who went out and bought that used equipment for $150,000, and they financed it. That's who's probably hurting the most.
Well, I mean, it checks out. I was hoping you were going to come on and be like, listen, Charles, I got this fresh analytics sheet in, and it's all going to change next week, and we're going to break the news here on Cents Per Mile. It's all going to be rainbows and unicorns. But no, folks, you heard it here on Cents Per Mile. It's trucking. We're still in a slump. Control your cost, mitigate losses, operate smart.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's one of those things too. When you look at that line, I mean, it's always going to be the shippers and what they're willing to pay, and then if they don't want to pay the higher prices, there's going to be someone who takes it cheaper. So then carriers are going to hurt. And then brokers are always on top because it's going to be dependent on what it costs. So it's like, I think it's always going to be the carrier. And because the carrier is always the one that suffers, the drivers are always going to lose.
You know who I think's doing okay, though? I'll have to look into it. We're going to have some people on and do an insurance roundtable, because I'm not sure insurance companies are really taking the same pain. Their premiums keep going up.
Exactly right. Yeah.
And then you got things out there like the Warner verdict that, you see out there right now. You got the Texas Supreme Court ruling in on that. You got a driver that didn't do anything wrong, who got hit and victim of happenstance. And now that carrier is fighting for their life. And if that goes in the person who was wrong's favor, the insurance premium is going to go up across the board for everyone, because everyone is at risk of being a payout then.
Yeah, it's one thing that hasn't decreased, right? Or insurance premiums, they've accelerated.
I would love to see mine decrease. I got a kid that's about to go on mine here in September. I'm terrified. I'm going to need like a third job.
I know, right? Insurance is expensive, right? And so for carriers, those expenses are going up. So, insurance, the insurance industry has probably benefited more, or I won't say benefited, but they haven't been hit by the same pressures. Brokerages are doing better than carriers, but they're not doing all that great either, because their margins are down, shrinking, because it's a race to the bottom in this industry, especially on that. But they don't have the assets, they don't have the fixed costs and the usually the debt on long-term assets that carriers do.
Service-based industries.
I know, right?
No, if there was one piece of advice you could give to everyone out there to better position themselves and kind of buckle up for this ride, because it's going to be bumpy before it gets any better, what would that be?
Do you have any advice for people to put their seatbelts on like halfway in? Yeah,
halfway in. But I will say, I've
been on it for 3 years.
I will say this, and it's not original. It's something that is universal. Know your numbers.
Man, I've been hearing that a lot even on the radio when I'm doing the show. The most common thing, and it doesn't matter whether you're talking insurance, brokerage, carriers, know your operating cost. And the fact that so many people got to say it tells me that there's so many people out there that don't know their operating cost.
That they don't, right? And so I say it, hundreds of other people say it, right? It's not original whatsoever, but it's the most important thing. You have to know your numbers, especially in this environment. I think Buffett is the one who said you don't know who is swimming naked until the tide goes out. And not knowing your numbers means that you're out there naked.
Some wise words, my friend. I can just imagine Paul making a thumbnail for that. No,
we're gonna get hit. We're gonna get hit on YouTube.
Oh yeah, we will. We're gonna have Freight Waves and everyone telling us you guys got to redo this one.
That's not the one. That ain't it. Yep. We can try though.
Where can people find you if they want to look into more information, have a great conversation, or in general, just pick your brain about where things are going or where they're not going?
Yeah, LinkedIn's the best way, right? So you can find me, Kevin Hill, on LinkedIn and just DM me. I'm always checking that out. I have great industry data on the freight brokerage industry, and I have great data now through CarrierSource with shipper intent and shipper leads, what they're searching for, and we're publishing that quite a bit as well. So if you want to have a conversation about the market in general or anything in specific, LinkedIn, just DM me.
Yeah, and as that stuff comes in, man, make sure to let us know and hit us up. We'd love to have you on, let you guys flex on all that data because people love their numbers.
It's true.
They do. They might not know them, but they love them.
Not a big fan of skinny dipping. Give me all the numbers.
Kevin Hill, check him out, man who's a wealth of knowledge, always a great conversation, and you can easily find him online. Yeah. But like all good things, this has to come to an end. We got to get back to work. Hopefully you do too. Know your numbers. I'm Charles Gracie. Thanks for tuning in to Cents Per Mile.
And I'm your co-host, Paul Gibson.